Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jack.
So I wanted to start by the Texas legislature passed $18 billion worth of property tax relief, and the property tax cuts will be felt this year. They'll be retroactive to this year. My question to you is this sustainable and lasting relief? And what will the state do to make sure that local property taxes for schools won't creep back up?
I do think it's sustainable. I think this economy we have here in Texas is, 1 year we're the 11th largest economy, then we're the 10th largest economy, and now we're the 9th largest economy in the world. People are moving here, 1,200 people a day. Major announcements for new developments and new investments in Texas, new headquarters moving to Texas. I do think it's sustainable, and I do think this was a great opportunity to provide much needed property tax relief to all Texans, and that's exactly what this package of bills accomplished.
And it will keep local property taxes for schools creeping back up?
Well, that our commitment is to buy down through compression, and of course we're going to hold harmless the homestead increase, and also the 20% limit on appraised values for properties below 5 million that are not homesteads. Yes, we are holding these ISDs harmless on all those provisions. That is a commitment of the state of Texas, and our commitment is going forward, 27 to 2029, and hopefully each session after that.
You said last night that you knew trying to figure out a way to give people back money, the residents back, would be the most contentious issue. A lot of people, though, I spoke with were still very surprised about it taking 2 special sessions to get this done. Why weren't you and the lieutenant governor and governor on the same page from the start?
It's a great question, but with record surplus comes a record expectations, and every member has their own idea that they want to bring forward, and that's how this deliberative body works in the House, and that's how it works in the Senate. Of course, the governor had ideas as well, and we were very respectful of those. And where we landed was a compromise between both the House, the Senate, and the governor, and it ended up being the best package that we've had going back to January. So it was worth the wait. We needed to get it right, but we had to get it done in time to allow the voters to approve these ideas in the November constitutional amendment election, which is forthcoming. So they would have an opportunity to approve all these ideas that we put forth. But again, when you got $34 billion in surplus, you're going to have a lot of expectations of how to spend those dollars. And we finally landed where we were, and we had tremendous support in the Texas House. Of course, the Senate had tremendous support as well, and the governor is looking forward to signing the bill. So I think we landed in the right spot.
Were you surprised at how contentious this became? Not
at all. Just to give you a quick idea, going back to last October of 2021, we had $17 billion from the federal government in COVID relief money, $17 billion. Through the House and Senate, we have $1.7 trillion in budget requests for that $17 billion. So I knew going into this session with $34 billion in state funds that there was going to be a lot of high expectations, both in the House and the Senate, but we navigated through it. And the governor credit for having a laser focused special session number 2 that just dealt with property tax relief. It got us all on the same page.
Some House Democrats wanted renters to get a direct relief. Why wasn't that included in this? Because they are 38% of all Texans are renters.
Sure, they will. I firmly believe they will see relief. The multifamily housing market is a very competitive market, and when the cost of doing business is taxes, is one of the main drivers of the cost of doing business is taxes. And when you have an apartment on one side of the street that passes on $50, $100, $200 a month savings, or signing bonus savings, or 2 months of free rent because of this property tax relief, you're going to see other apartment complexes in that neighborhood doing the exact same thing. There's been articles just as recently as this week using Harris County as an example, that their rents have not only plateaued, but they've actually started to decrease. And then when you also have developers looking at the cost of doing business decreasing because of the property tax relief, they're more likely to invest in that market sector. And then you'll see a greater supply of multifamily housing units further driving down the costs of those rents.
The Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, said the House did not want to include teacher raises or bonuses in this legislation. Why is that the case? And will teachers get bonuses and or raises that are permanent in the third special session that's called in the fall? And if so, about how much do you think?
First of all, thank you. Great question. And allow me to clarify. One, it was not on the call. The governor did not include anything related to public education on this call for this second special session. So it was not germane. And in the House rules, were very explicit that if something is not germane to the call, it shall not be brought up. And the Lieutenant Governor agreed yesterday when the HJR went back to the Senate. He actually ruled on a point of order, sustained, saying that teacher pay increase is not germane to HJR 2. I also want to work with the Senate on a teacher pay increase that is sustainable over a long period of time. In essence, the previously floated idea about teacher pay increase from the special session, number one, basically ended up being a 13th check, which is admirable, and I'm sure teachers would appreciate. But if you want to attract new teachers to the profession and you want to keep teachers in the profession, I think they need more predictability and a long-term solution when it comes to pay increase. The House is committed to increasing the pay for teachers. I firmly believe we have the votes for that. And I feel like there might be another special session this fall that deals with public education, of which would include teacher pay increase.
Any indication of how much?
There's $5 billion set aside right now for public education finance. And that could be basic allotment, that could be teacher pay increase, that could be an increase in the school safety allotment. So that's going to be debated if and when we come back. That is the governor's decision, but it could be sometime this fall where we bring up all those issues in a more holistic approach.
As you know, Governor Abbott vetoed 77 bills, some of them in the House. How did that go over with House members? And will lawmakers have a chance to revive those vetoed bills?
That will also be the discretion of the governor as he dictates what is on a call and what is not on a call. I'm sure there's some House members who've gone over to him and are lobbying to have their babies added back to the call so they can have a second chance to revisit. Some of those were tax bills that we may be able to revisit in a special as well and talk a little bit more about taxes if the voters want us to do that when we go back home and listen to them for the months of August and September. So again, yeah, that's incumbent upon the House members to lobby the governor and to have those added to the call.
I wanted to ask you about the political fallout to the impeachment of Ken Paxton and specifically on Republican state representatives. Some of them are being primaried, as you know. One member, Glenn Rogers, up here in the North Texas region, there are billboards now going out saying he voted along with Democrats. Is this fair? What's your reaction?
It's not fair at all, Jack. It's a sad state of affairs. The House did the right thing. The Attorney General and his staff came to the House and Senate and asked for $3.3 million to settle a lawsuit when he wrongfully terminated some state employees that he recruited, state employees that were believers in Ken Paxton, state employees that were staunch conservatives. And he terminated their employment. And then he wanted us to give him $3.3 million to settle the case. That opened up an investigation here in the Texas House. And that investigation occurred over several months and hours, hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours of interviewing witnesses with the investigators. And that led us to 20 articles of impeachment, which were, by the way, voted for. The vast majority of the Republican caucus voted for it. It wasn't. It was a bipartisan vote, but the vast majority of Republicans supported it, including everyone in Mr. Paxton's own community who represents that area. They all understood the gravity of the articles of impeachment, and they agreed with the board of managers to impeach him. And you expect these things when you have an impeachment trial. Things become very political. It is to be expected, but at the same time, it's not warranted.
Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate you.